10% more to give next time. A perfectly reasonable means, and I think fans can sympathize with that sentiment for the most part. But then, Deontay Wilder happened.
I knew what was going on with my body. I felt it when the mask came off. I knew something was wrong with me. I knew I was not right.
You know, just using a bunch of excuses for getting whooped like that.
There was a bunch of people saying that Tyson Fury's gloves weren't attached correctly.
An excuse maker. A guy who couldn't face reality that he'd lost.
He actually went down a litany of things that he started to say that were done against him without any real proof. He got me on so bad.
You're right. It wasn't the 40-pound suit that he had on coming to the ring. That may have been a reason why his legs weren't there, but it wasn't the reason.
This might be the most embarrassing excuse that I've ever heard.
Because I speak it, believe it, receive it. Speak it, believe it, receive it. Speak it, believe it, receive it.
The former WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder has clearly struggled to get grips with the fact that Tyson Fury, the boxer, is the sole reason his perfect, unblemished record has been tainted, producing an unprecedented amount of excuses during the fallout of both fights.
I can't make no excuses tonight. Got a lot of complications.
On today's video, we'll be analyzing those excuses in the iceberg format, basically from the most credible down to the depths of what I personally see as implausible. Deontay Wilder's face will represent each category from happy to angry. If you enjoy the content around here, a thumbs up would be appreciated. Here now, BLTV presents the Deontay Wilder Excuse Iceberg, Explained. During the build-up to Wilder Fury 2, Deontay told various media outlets, including the BT Sports documentary team, that he had broken his right hand during his preparation for the first Fury fight.
The first Fury fight, I broke my hand, so I only had one hand. The right hand was it was very off in camp. I didn't want to throw it to injure it even more. I felt like if I reserved it and threw it in the fight, then if I broke it in the fight, then I'm getting paid.
Although there was no evidence provided, I still see this as the most plausible excuse due to Wilder's long history of injuries with his hands. Somewhere in the region of 2009, Wilder crashed his motorcycle, which led to rods being placed in his right arm and metal pins in his hand. Despite the surgery, his hands have broken on many occasions throughout his career, with MRI scans proving that fact in his fights with Bermane Stiverne and Chris Arreola. He proceeded to land some Hail Mary blows that night, but I think this excuse still holds weight. It's hard to really narrow down precisely what Deontay meant by being a zombie, but during his first interview after his knockout defeat to Fury, he told the PBC,
"Like I said, I can't talk about a lot of things, but it wasn't Deontay Wilder. Now, you can tell from the mask, from my reaction to certain things that I was doing in the ring, and that night, I wasn't myself. I felt like a zombie in there. There's a lot of things I can't say, you know what I'm saying? A lot of things.
Although some other excuses will tie into this zombie narrative later, I think Wilder might have just had a touch of stage fright while being under the lights. I think the fact Deontay was well over a stone heavier than his previous 6 fights could have made him feel a bit sluggish also. Not uncommon in boxing, but it's rarely used as an excuse. This is where the accusations start running a bit deeper. Wilder has been particularly vocal on what he feels was biased officiating in Fury's favor during both fights. Deontay's issues with Jack Reese, the referee for the first fight, was that he thought Jack had an emotional connection to Fury because of his depression story. That relationship then led to Fury getting more time to get up from the brutal knockdown in the 12th. Watching this back, I'm more surprised that Jack didn't wave the fight off immediately rather than the supposed extra time given. The truth is, this knockdown was handled faultlessly. Jack did his job by the book, and replays of the knockdown show that he kept counting due to Fury's eyes showing a response after 5 or so seconds of the count. You can watch Jack's full breakdown of why he handled the situation as he did on the BT Sports YouTube channel, but as far as I'm concerned, there was little evidence of biased officiating that night. Kenny Bayless was officiating the rematch, and despite the large majority of boxing fans feeling he showed bias towards Wilder, point deductions, various regeneration periods, etc., Deontay still slammed the Hall of Fame referee for allowing what he felt was an excessive amount of rabbit punches. I can sympathize with Deontay in this regard because Tyson did, and often does, get away with an unfair amount of dirty tactics. Yet the fact he took a point away kinda negates his argument as a whole. My take after watching the rematch multiple times, Bayless didn't have his best night, but if any bias was shown, it came across in Deontay's favor. Of all the excuses Deontay made in terms of influencing his loss, blaming the former world champ Andre Dirrell is the one to me that holds the most weight. On the Charlo Brothers YouTube channel, they uploaded a ringside vlog of the Wilder Fury rematch. During a small segment of the vlog, a loud voice can be heard screaming for the towel to be thrown in. That voice was later identified as Andre Dirrell's, a fighter trained by the same man as Tyson Fury, one Javon Sugar Hill. I'll be honest, I think the yelling could have perhaps played a part in Breland, Deontay's coach's decision to stop the fight, considering the entire ringside audience was obviously paying attention to what he was saying. But then again, everything falls apart when you take a second to think about the context. Deontay was taking the beating of a lifetime, getting punched from pillar to post while blood poured out of his ear. Deontay wanting to go out on his shield, it's understandable, but even in a brutal sport like boxing, there are due diligence and safety measures that referees and corner teams need to take into account. Nothing, indeed, is impossible when you carry the power like Deontay, but him coming back to win that rematch was as close as it's going to get. When the referee Kenny Bayless was interviewed the morning after, he told the Ring magazine that he was very close to stopping the fight anyway, thus the result would have been the same. However, I can see why Deontay was pissed that the last voice he could hear in the fight was Andre Dirrell screaming for the towel to be thrown in. Whether you're a big boxing fan or not, the Deontay Wilder costume fiasco is a situation you're likely aware of, being that it's the excuse that made the most headlines.
The outfit that you wore to the ring, wearing over 40 pounds, is why you think you lost this fight?
To pay homage to Black History Month, Deontay decided to wear a multi-battery, jewel-filled electronic costume that looked like it had been crafted by Rita to defeat the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
That is an extraordinary outfit.
In all fairness, the outfit looked pretty awesome, but due to all of its gimmicks, it weighed in excess of 40 pounds.
The idea that Deontay Wilder with a 40-pound outfit on, that it killed his legs, walk into the ring, that's crazy talk. I don't understand why he would say that.
Deontay claimed the suit weakened his legs, and by the fourth round, he was out on his feet, not because of Fury's assault, but because the costume had zapped him of his energy. Deontay also revealed he had tried on the outfit the night before, and on fight night wore it for 30 or 40 minutes before making his way to the ring. This would have unquestionably tired him out to a certain degree, but my question is, why didn't he just drop the idea if the thing was so dang heavy? Stupidity is likely the answer, but to make matters worse, an old clip of him talking about his training regimen on the Joe Rogan podcast resurfaced, where he claimed he wears a 45-pound vest at all times during all exercises that involve using his feet.
If I'm doing anything that consists of me moving my feet, is sprinting and stuff like that. And I wear a 45-pound vest on me as well too, in all my exercise and everything that I do to have that extra weight on me.
Really?
I have this excuse so high up the iceberg because I genuinely think it could have hindered his performance. Yet as Stephen A. Smith said, the validity of the excuse is irrelevant due to its embarrassing nature. Some things are just better left unsaid. When Junior fought, Deontay's chief sparring partner for the Fury rematch told the press about a potential bicep tear during the late stages of camp. The boxing world responded with, "Wait, an excuse that Deontay kept a secret?" But no, it was only a matter of time before the Bronze Bomber came to light and expressed the details of an alleged 7 surgeries to his right bicep after his loss.
With this whole bicep thing, I had things going into Russia I will never speak about. It's boxing, you know, but I'm not going to ever talk about any negatives. It's just about what did you do in the ring, what spirit did you have.
My position is the same as Anthony Yard's. It's too much hearsay without documented proof. Regardless of the seriousness, fans rarely sympathize with alleged injuries for 2 reasons. 1, injuries are commonplace in contact sports, and most top fighters enter the ring injured in one way or another. 2. Why enter the ring injured when you're not only hindering your own chances of winning, but robbing fans of seeing what they paid for in the first place? The best version of you taking on the best version of your opponent. Naturally, a payday is usually the motivating factor.
If I reserved it and throwed it in the fight, then if I broke it in the fight, then I'm getting paid.
After their first fight, Deontay insisted he didn't want to make any excuses during the post-fight press conference.
Well, I mean, we don't make no excuses.
He then proceeded to make outlandish claims, such as Fury was covered in baby oil.
You know, and start overshooting. It felt like he had baby oil on him, too. He was slippery.
It's impossible to debunk, but at face value, it seems like perspiration. This is an allegation that's wrongly been placed upon Deontay, as according to my research, the Fury performance-enhancing drug scandal for the Wilder rematch appears to be a baseless accusation made by the former heavyweight champ Hasim Rahman, that according to this interview on FightHype.com, he couldn't understand how Fury improved offensively so exceedingly in such a short period of time.
My first impression of that whole fight was I would think that Tyson Fury was on something. You know, I know he was on something when he beat Klitschko. And I mean, I just don't see how somebody can just get that strong and start punching that hard that quick.
First off, Hasim, Fury didn't fail any drug test for the Klitschko fight, and there is zero evidence to suggest otherwise. Secondly, the Kronk gym. The Kronk's aggressive training style and tactics are why Fury beat Wilder the way he did. You, of all people, would know the difference that gym can make. Again, it's entirely possible that Fury, or even Wilder in this case, were taking PEDs that night. The sport is riddled with cheats, yet no one failed the test, so it's just all unfounded denunciations based on the eye test. I can always sympathize when a fighter, particularly a champion, wants to go out on a shield.
He's taken another one, and Howard Foster has stopped it! Wow! That is going to be controversial!
This section could have been crossed out completely once you factor in our Andre Durrell piece from earlier. That was until recently, when Deontay openly expressed what he felt was a traitor in his camp.
In the end, it took a crab in a bucket referee and a disloyal trainer to throw the towel in just to stop me.
Deontay spoke out and accused his longtime cornerman Mark Breland of throwing in the towel early, not to protect his fighter's interest, but because he had a secret allegiance with Team Fury.
Fortunately, Mark Breland, who I believe is a great coach, but an even better person, is getting thrown under the bus. I don't agree with it.
Wilder sacked Breland soon after the rematch, and the two have since released public statements regarding what they feel was the truth. Breland claimed Wilder is untrainable and not willing to listen. Wilder, on the other hand, insisted Breland is a traitor and jealous of what he has achieved in regards to his own unfulfilled career. A nasty breakup all around, yet the accusations from Wilder were only beginning to heat up. Not to be confused with some of the allegations to come. Glove manipulation was a claim made by Deontay in a hard-hitting video tweet at the end of last year.
I saw in the first fight where Ricky Hatton was pulling down your gloves to put your fist in the improper position. Y'all tried the same method the second time, but this time you scratched flesh out of my ears, which caused my ears to bleed.
Okay, stop right there. Now Ricky Hatton's involved? From what we can gather, Deontay is accusing Ricky of pulling down Fury's glove so that Tyson can land strikes while his hand is in the lower part of the glove.
So now he's landing, as you see in the video footage or the pictures, he's landing the shot on the chin with this part of the glove where there's no padding.
Not only has this been debunked by other pros as a useless strategy, but Ricky himself responded by what he felt was an absurd accusation to throw at a fellow pro.
Some of these comments is just, it's quite insulting. I mean, to sort of like throw accusations like that at a fellow professional.
If one comment could sum up this video, it's this one. The clip is hardly itself damning, even out of context. But the most bizarre thing of all, this clip is from the first fight, where Deontay fought to a draw and wasn't hit by any shots that seemed extraordinary. We told you the Breland drama was only starting to heat up as Deontay's last words on the matter involved a very spikeful accusation.
But it wasn't just the fruit 7-8.
Absolutely.
It wasn't. You know what I'm saying? My water was tampered with, bro. From the point of coming, leaving my dressing room and going into the ring, drinking certain water and stuff and trying to keep myself hydrated and stuff like that, man, I just started feeling weird.
In a phone interview with 78 Sports TV, Deontay claimed Breland not only threw in the towel on purpose, but spiked his water with a muscle relaxer, again tying in to the whole Breland grand conspiracy to dethrone the king, as Deontay put it.
Your king is here.
Deontay claimed Breland was the only man to feed him water throughout the fight, yet that can be debunked before the first bell even rang. No evidence was provided to suggest anything out of the ordinary was in his system. Was it just the heavy costume taking its toll, or something more sinister? Well, the wider boxing community has a hard time believing any of it.
That he felt that his water was spiked.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay.
How many losses do I got?
8.
8?
Yeah.
Somebody spiked my water on all those 8 fights, and I'm letting you know right now that those 8 fights, I think my water was spiked. I'm telling you.
A close second behind the costume excuse in terms of public outrage was the Glovegate conspiracy, or Glovegate 2.0.
Look how the glove, first of all, look how the glove is broken in. Let's just look at that. This glove is already broken in. Look at the padding and look how thin the glove is, okay?
Pictures and slow-motion GIFs were shared around Twitter and other social media sites, which appeared to show a lack of filler in Tyson Fury's gloves. The context of clips was irrelevant, despite most of them being from the first fight, as fans would mash up clips to try and create cheating narratives to excuse Wilder's loss. Nick Asbury, a longtime sparring partner of Fury, added fire to the flame when he released a short video showing Tyson's sparring gloves compared to his own.
This is Tyson's and these are his bag, his sparring gloves that we were sparring with. As you can see, there's no padding in here, and all the padding's in the back.
Even though I have my doubts about this video, its most damning outcome doesn't for a second mean Fury removed padding in his gloves for the Wilder fights. Some YouTubers have pushed the algorithm as far as possible to spread this narrative, so whenever you search the term, you'll be met by hours upon hours of content that all boils down to nothing of any substance. Trust me, I sat through a lot of nonsense during the research for this.
He's a coward. Tyson Fury cheated on Deontay Wilder, period.
Before every fight, a commission will hold a meeting where both fighters and their teams can attend and approve one another's gloves. Due to the Margarito controversy roughly 10 years ago, the level of inspection in today's game is at a much higher standard. Here, we can literally see Jay Dees, Wilder's head coach, closely inspecting Fury, wrapping up and tying his gloves before the devastating rematch. Admittedly, some of the clips do raise an eyebrow, and I can see how casual fans might come across some of these videos and be drawn into what seems like pretty damning evidence. Boxing commissions, the WBC in particular, have dealt with these issues in the past and have caught cheaters under investigation. Do you really think they wouldn't have found something that they felt necessary to investigate under the heavy scrutiny of these fights? Deontay Wilder was their golden asset and someone they valued dearly. I can assure you, they would have been the first ones to call out any foul play if there was indeed anything to recognize. Oh, and just remember, 99% of the clips are from the first fight, and this narrative barely existed until Fury knocked him out in the rematch.
Not unless Deontay Wilder's own trainer Jay Dees was in on a conspiracy as well, along with all the Las Vegas State Commission guys who never left the room. Jay Dees was in the room while I had my hands wrapped. He examined them. He was in there when I had my gloves put on, examined them.
Moving, but then he started getting his legs back under him, and then he started landing.
There's also other things as well too. You know, he's still a gypsy though.
Yeah.
You know they believe in a lot of things.
Yeah,
you know
that,
what I mean?
Right?
So
yeah, you never know.
You know. Hey.
Joe Rogan responds to this how most normal human beings would. Gypsy curse? Who would believe such a thing? Well, Deontay wasn't joking. He's double and tripled down on this narrative during multiple interviews since his draw with Fury.
That would slow me down. See, they thought they was gonna take me out in the second and third round. But that voodoo judo, that gypsy gumbo soup didn't work.
Fury even came out publicly to say he doesn't indeed possess any gypsy powers. Not that it really needed to be said. He followed up by saying that perhaps his mind games before the fight planted a seed and shook Deontay's confidence, which to me sounds just a slight bit more plausible. Deontay is openly superstitious, which is not surprising considering he comes from a family of preachers. Most boxers are men of faith, and you'll often see them praising God for their victories after the fight. Yet when you allow your belief in the supernatural to potentially hinder your performance, it might be time to separate and celebrate them as two different entities. I saved the most confusing for last, because while a group of fans were pushing the removed glove filler narrative, Deontay Wilder's brother, Marcellus, chucked a considerable spanner in the works by proclaiming not only did Fury have his gloves filled with horsehair and foam, but a solid object, potentially an egg weight, hidden amongst the mix.
It was discovered by the doctors that my brother
has a dent in the side of his head due to a blunt object struck against his head from his last fight.
Before you ask, no, this picture isn't real. In all honesty, the real picture does still look quite incriminating. That is until you realize it's just a hyperimposed version of this one, which appears to be your run-of-the-mill swelling after being punched repeatedly by a man that weighs 275 pounds. Deontay championed his brother's theory during that tweet at the end of last year.
I highly believe you put something hard in your glove. Something the size and the shape of an egg weight. Here's the reason why the side of my face swelled up in an egg weight form.
As for the dent, I think what makes it look bad is the fact that there are numerous swellings around the same area, which makes one part look crushed in, when in reality it's just the surrounding area inflamed. I'm not saying for certain that Fury didn't hide something in his gloves, remove padding, groom the ref, cover himself in excessive oil, take PEDs, or engage in Breland's master plans to dethrone the king. I'm just saying there's no evidence, other than some blurry pictures and Deontay's word, to take for any of it. Now, I can imagine that there are a few people who will assume I have a bias to Team Fury or some unconditional hate for Wilder, but the truth is, I picked Deontay to win the first fight. I honestly thought his power could overcome the skill gap. I'm not mad that I was wrong. I've been a fan of both these guys dating back as far as 2008 when they were just starting out. I was one of the first people on YouTube making videos about Deontay while most, not all, hardcores among the community were trashing him on the forums and in the comment sections. Even now, as the third fight between the two looms, I don't lean one way or the other. I just want to see the best man win. Witnessing greatness is my biggest motivation as a boxing fan. Despite all the ludicrous excuses made by Deontay, I still wish him all the best moving forward. The only thing I found genuinely bothersome was how his relationship with Breland ended. From the outside looking in, it seemed uncalled for from Deontay's perspective, doing it in the public manner he did. Yet with his new coach Malik Scott, this could be the refresh he needed, bringing in the man that could perhaps teach him a few things that Breland struggled with. So, where is Deontay's mindset in terms of dealing with that loss today?
And when you know the truth shall set you free. So, it was never a dark moment for me, only light.
Away with the fairies and nothing will change, which is a bit of a buzzkill for me. If Deontay's previous excuses were truthful, particularly on the injury ones, then the third fight will surely be a whitewash, as one fighter is a fragile, injury-prone mess, while the other is blessed by the gypsy gods and punches so hard it feels as if he's got solid objects in his gloves. What's to get excited about? Well, in the case the majority of boxing fans were right, and Deontay was telling a few white lies, we could still be in for an intriguing matchup between one of the most destructive heavies ever and one of the most unpredictable and brilliant fighting men of our time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Until next time, this is Boxing Legends TV, signing off.